Hi everyone, this is Sylvia Flores, and what I want to do today is show y'all the importance of establishing your routines and procedures the first day back. Well, since we will be starting a new semester in a week, I felt it was important for us to kind of cover what should be taught the first day of class. Usually, I would start my semester with a PowerPoint that went over my routines, my procedures, my expectations. And of course, it's very important for you to be consistent in doing this. So I'm going to quickly go through my PowerPoint. Of course, you can shadow, mimic, take the same thing. But this is just something that I feel like I would want to show y'all just so you can get ideas or justify the reasons why you're already doing this in your classroom. So, of course, you start with your name and anything that you're teaching this semester. I usually go a little bit into my education because I feel it's important for our students to know basically where we come from and the routes we took education wise. So, I go over that and then my teachings. A little bit about myself. Of course, we're trying to make build relationships with our students, so it's important to be relatable to them. So I would put a little bit about myself. I would also include pictures. So I just go over it very quickly. Anything that can get the students to relate to me, so that way it can open up your uh, relationship with your students, right? And then, of course, I get into my classroom rules. The past couple of years, I had been doing it through memes. In my class, my students always knew that we were going to work, but it was also going to be fun. So it's finding a good balance of both of them, which makes your classroom welcoming. So I start with my classroom rules, very simple. In general, be respectful on time, keep your hands to your feet and to yourself, and do not keep other kids from learning. And then, of course, follow all district campus rules and policies. Do not create rules in your classroom that do not go along with the student code of conduct. And then basically here, you're going to give examples of what not to do in your classroom and what to do in your classroom. Of course, you go over the dress code and anything that you put on here, make sure you are going to follow through with it. Again, it's very important to be consistent when it comes to going over your classroom rules. Of course, no jeans, shirts must be tucked in, so on and so forth. Cell phone policy. Do not use your cell phone in class. I usually had a shoe organizer in the front of my class, and I had a number 1 through 30, and the students had that routine of putting their cell phone in that shoe organizer when they came into my class, and then they would get it back at the end of class. So that way it becomes a routine. Again, we're going over routines and procedures. But if I do have to bring it to their attention, this is the procedure that I would give them. I did have a little jail cell in my classroom where I would put phones that were confiscated, and this would be before the third warning where I would take it up. Attendance, I go over why it's important to be in class every day and how we always have work to do. Just because, 3 students are missing from your class doesn't mean you're going to stop work. So I emphasize that. Also, I put in my procedures that after 3 absences, parents will be called. And I also made sure to explain to them that it's important to get an excuse. Now, one of the main reasons why I would ask for an excuse is because I had students who would always be out, but yet they're very good at doing their assignments. However, those absences were unexcused. So, is it fair for them or for the other students who are in class to get the work, and these students who are skipping, because they don't have an excuse, so they would be skipping, for them to be able to just make up the work, and that's a no, right? That is unacceptable. So I made them get an excuse. I would give them the work, but I would also not give them credit until they brought me the excuse. So that's one way you can track that. I put in my grading policy, what assignments are worth, quizzes are worth, exams are worth, and then my 6 weeks averages, semester exams. If you want credit, make sure to turn in your assignments. So many times we have students who don't turn in assignments and they expect to get credit for it because they did it or we saw them do it in class. So just make sure that it's in your syllabus or make sure that it's in your procedures. And of course, make sure your name's on it. I would go over the materials that they would need for my class. We did an interactive notebook in my class. So I made sure that they had that, pens and pencils, no only blue or black ink because I would use colors. So that's the way I knew, like, that was my grading. USB, we were a very tech savvy school, and then of course color pencils. My hall pass only allow one student per pass. So many times we see 3 or 4 students per pass out in the hallways. That is completely unacceptable. It just makes it more uh, crowded in the hallways than what it should be. And then it gives more leeway for students to be distracted, so on and so forth, or get lost along the way. My policy was if you are late to my class, don't ask to leave the class again. It's not going to happen. And basically is setting that expectation that you're going to come to my class and you're going to stay in my class. And if you're going to be late to my class, you've already interrupted my class once. You're not going to do that again. We had a severe clause where there was no fighting, routines and procedures. So here's where I would explain to my students where everything was in my class. As soon as you walk in, the agenda's on the board. This is exactly where you're going to see it every single day. And it's important for y'all to have that procedure in place and that consistency. If you start changing your agenda around, then it's going to be tougher for the students to actually know where it's at if it keeps moving. So if you have one designated area on your board where that's where your agenda or your objective, make sure it's there the whole year. The procedure for the interactive notebooks, I had them in bins in the front of my class, and the students knew as soon as you walk into my class, you're going to go ahead and get your notebook from the bin, and you're going to look at the agenda. There should be a bell ringer there, and that's what you're going to be doing as soon as you come into the class. I also explained that we were a blended classroom. We would be using programs like Edmodo. They'd have access to YouTube because I did the flipped classroom. And then, of course, we would have Remind, where I would send them messages through this app that they would be able to get my notifications. I showed them where my word wall was and what we would do with the word wall, where assignments would go, where assignments could be picked up. I usually had a board on on one of my boards I had a calendar, and that's where all my assignments would go with a little filing system right next to it where the students can easily find that. So many times you're going to find that you waste a lot of time when you don't have that organization while you're looking for papers for students. So I would recommend that you establish an area designated to assignments. And then, of course, what they would do for missed work or my policies and procedures based on that. And I would finish off with assuring them that it will be a lot of work, but we are in this together. I would emphasize that I was not there to be their friend, I was there to be their teacher, but if they needed anything academically, I would be there to support them. All right, so I hope this PowerPoint helps. I hope this video helps. If you have any questions, just let me know. Email me, call me. I'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you for listening.